Joining us now is Charles Tendell. He is the co-host and cybersecurity correspondent for a longtime radio broadcast called Computer America. He is a computer hacker going back to his childhood days. He is a veteran of the United States military, a cybersecurity consultant, and a certified ethical hacker. And thanks to an article in the New York Times, we also know he is the person behind something called Hackers List, which is a controversial website we'll be talking about. And he joins us now. Mr. Tendell, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And listen, you got a little bit of attention this week with the news that you are the guy behind Hackers List. There's been a lot of criticism, and I wanted to talk to you about that. Maybe then we can talk about some general cybersecurity issues. But Hackers List, to me, it looks like, reading the article and exploring the site a little bit, it looks to me like an Uber for hackers kind of thing, where people can go and hire hackers. But it's gotten a lot of criticism. It seems rife for misuse and abuse for hiring people to do exactly the opposite of the kind of thing you seem to do all your career, which is white hat hacking. So what's the story there?
Well, first you have to look at Hackers List as it's meant to be an open marketplace. That's what it's designed for. It's meant to bring ethical hackers together with consumers that are looking for legal and ethical things that need to get done. You know, negative content removal, person locate, so they need to find someone, kind of things like that. Hackers List on the front end, yes, the person can come on and they can post just about anything they want to post on Hackers List. And we've done our best. We've tried to do moderation on the site, but it just didn't work out in us doing it. So we switched to more of a community model. And it was originally designed to be a community model, and it's just taken some time to gain some traction. Now on the back end, if you run a project through Hackers List and it looks like that project might be illegal, my team is instructed not to complete that transaction. So they will not allow anyone to do anything illegal through the website. And that's, that when people start doing a little more prying and they get a little deeper into the process, that's when they realize, oh, it's not meant for me to come up here and do a bunch of illegal things, and I can get caught doing this sort of thing. But it is designed to bring ethical hackers, innovators, people who think outside the box together with people who are looking for that kind of solution.
I guess there are a couple things that concerned me about that. One was when I went on about an hour ago, it's moved down the list a couple, but the first thing I saw was bring websites down. That was the first job that I saw somebody was looking for. And I guess my concern, I take you at your word that you are you would want to interfere with any nefarious or illegal action, but isn't that giving a lot of power to you?
What do you mean?
Well, in the sense that if you're the guy who's deciding whether a job is illegal or not, then it's really up to you to filter and stop this from being used wrongly. Then the rest of us are kind of left to take your word for it, aren't we?
Oh yes. I mean, wouldn't you rather have a certified ethical hacker at the helm of an environment where there might be some questionable legality out there? I've spent years dealing in situations where I have to have the get out of jail free card, where I understand the boundaries of the legality behind some of those things. And me sitting there or me instructing my staff to say, this is what the project is going to be, these are the categories, flag in this general direction, I think that's the best way to do it.
But there's nothing in here, for example, unless I've missed it, in which case I apologize and point me to it. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing in here that says specifically what the guidelines of good and bad are. And I guess my ideal would not be what you just described, but it would be more along the lines of, let's not create a website that attracts people wanting to buy and sell illegal or unethical services.
No, that was another thing that's come up here recently about let's change the format of the website, let's change the design of the website, so on and so forth. But we would be having the conversation if it were called, a penetration tester list. If it were anything other than Hackers List, would we actually be talking about it? It's meant to, one, bring light to the fact that there are ethical hackers out there. That hackers are the innovators, the creators, the creative people out there that do amazing things and have brought a lot of the technology that you use on a daily basis to bear. The malicious ones that you hear about, those are kind of the exceptions to the rule. Most true hackers aren't out there to watch the world burn. They're out there to make it a better place. Can we do more to bring the message more to the forefront? We sure are. We sure can, and we sure are. That's in the development and everything else that's happening with Hackers List. And something else that needs to be pointed out is Hackers List wasn't ready when the New York Times first picked it up. It wasn't. The website's back end hadn't been finished. We were still demoing. We were still testing a lot of things. And when the article posted, the headline is, pay someone to do your cyber dirty work, and that's not what it was designed for. But that's right there naturally how people started developing more of this image of, I can get a hacker to do something completely off the wall that may or may not be illegal.
Well, so were they able to get in? Was the website not public at the time, or?
Oh no, it was public, but we were still building, we were still coding the front end of the website.
So you can't fault somebody. Yeah, I guess the concern is, we have Silk Road, we have other places where environments have been created to make it easier to do illegal or nefarious things. When I don't know about you, but I think that's a legitimate social concern. And when you, yes, I would agree with you that the name raises red flags. But also when you go in and you see people asking for negative services, I mean, a lot of people say, well, all we do online is bring parties together, but you can bring parties together in a neutral way, or you can bring parties together in a way that encourages a wrongful behavior. Do you think perhaps in retrospect you should have done this differently?
No, I don't think there's any other way to connect people with my skill level to the general populace. There's no, I couldn't think of a better way to do it, and I'm racking my brain to do so. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, and I've gotten a lot of them as to how we could make it less gray area about people coming on and having the desire to do illegal activity. And we've gotten a lot of suggestions of, how about we send an email, users sign up, we tell them to refer to our terms of service. Yes, the terms of service is 25 pages long, and it's in there. It lays out what you can and cannot use the website for. But do we need to have something more in your face that says, look, you can't do this on my website? Yes, and that's in the works.
Okay, I guess I will be add to the long list of people who have had suggestions, Charles Tendell, and I would suggest, for example, that if I were to create something called the Lockpickers website or Lockpickers list, and I put it up, and visitors immediately saw, break into First National Bank, break into Tiffany's, break into that, I might want to think about calling it the locksmiths list instead, and emphasizing that we're just working on helping people who are locked out of their house and that sort of thing. So I guess my suggestion would be, and I think it's worth having a conversation, by the way, a neutral conversation about a good point you bring up, which is the implied meaning of the word hackers and how people take it in the general vernacular. I'm happy to have that conversation, but I think all of it, plus frankly the secrecy of your identity, being the guy behind it for a long time, I think it contributed to a very negative perspective of what was going on here.
Well, let's take that one at a time. Again, if it were penetration testers list, or if it were anti-cyber stalker list, or anything of that nature, you're not going to get consumers on it. You're not going to get people going to the website to find out more about what it is and what you can use it for. And they're going to continue to have this negative connotation with hackers. They're going to naturally say, oh, they're hackers. They're just out to steal my credit card information. Not the case. The other aspect, the other portion of it is, once you get into it, once you start identifying what's on there and you look deeper, there are good things happening on Hackers List. There are people that are helping people find long lost loved ones. There are people that are helping them remove negative content from the internet. There are people that are using them for testing their own web server. Hackers List itself, we posted a project right after the New York Times article went up, help test Hackers List, and we listed what it was we were searching for, what we wanted people to test for, and we got a fantastic response from the community about for finding vulnerabilities and identifying places where we can do things better on the website, and that's the sort of thing that it's designed for. Now, moving on to my identity, it wasn't hidden. And that's that was the number one thing. It was available to people who looked in the right place. The problem, and the reason that I didn't come out initially about it, was for personal reasons. I had a lot going on, and I do run 2 other companies.
Okay, well, certainly the New York Times gives a different impression, but then on the other hand, you wouldn't be the first person who maybe has been reported on in a way that wasn't 100% accurate. So we'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. Well, let's pivot for a second, Charles Tendell, and let's talk a little bit about that word hacker, because I think it's interesting, and I think it's a legitimate conversation to have. I just typed in while we were talking to Google hacker. The first definition that came in was a person who uses computers to gain unauthorized access to data. Then I looked at Merriam-Webster, a little bit more favorable. It says, first it says somebody who's inexperienced. That's nothing to. Then it says an expert at programming and solving problems with a computer. And then it says a person who illegally gains access. So part of it is that it's a word that there isn't yet a common usage for. I mean, I also think of it in terms of a person who likes to tinker.
Exactly.
I mean, a quick story, and then we'll get back to many years ago, and I'm talking many years ago, I was the IT manager for a health plan in California, and we had a Wang word processor to show you how long ago it was. And it was a running joke between me and the salesperson. Every 2 weeks, she'd bring in a new security measure, and when she'd come back, making her rounds 2 weeks later, I'd have cracked it. So I get it. I mean, I haven't done that in many years, but I get the desire to break through things and barriers, and I get how that can be used for constructive purposes. But is it time to maybe rehabilitate the word, and as part of rehabilitating the word, maybe not encouraging people, even if you don't take them to, and then I'll drop this altogether, to bid on illegal jobs?
No, and that's you're right. You got 50 and 50 there. The word hacker, it has been, the media's done it, everybody's done it, that it's turned into now this negative word. It's a 4-letter word that everybody believes means I'm stealing your credit card information, and that is not what it means to be a hacker. Not even in a little bit. Hackers are the people who have created, who have developed almost all of the technologies that you use today. If it wasn't for a hacker by the name of Mark Zuckerberg, half the planet wouldn't be using Facebook. If it wasn't for a hacker by the name of Steve Jobs, half the planet wouldn't be using, personal computers or Apple devices. Bill Gates. Look at all of the major innovators of the last 50 years. All of them are hackers. And that is the example of what it means to be a hacker. You're innovating, you're leaning forward, you're daring to try something new. And, when you find these systems that are limited to just doing one or two things, it's the hackers that come out and identify, it can possibly do this, this, and this. Again, it's the exception to the rule when you hear the ones that are like, I can abuse these mechanisms to be able to do something nefarious. That's the problem.
Okay, so here's maybe this will be my first submission to hackers list. You mentioned Facebook and a couple of the other new technologies. Is it legit for me? And I would really like to do this, actually. Is it legit for me to go in, hire a hacker to go in and take away from Google and Facebook all the data they have about me and just delete it so that I am a non-entity to them?
Now there are ways to do that, and yes, there are definitely ways where you can do that where it would be unethical to do so, and you'd probably get caught and get in trouble, and that's something you wouldn't be able to do through hackers list. However, if you go through and you understand the way technology works, you understand search engine mechanisms and their algorithms, you understand how Facebook itself contains your information, I can externally extract, suppress, and remove personal information about an individual very simply. The problem, the reason that most consumers don't know how to do it is because it's a hard process. And only if you've been through it a couple of times do you know how to do it. So yes, you could post up on Hackers List right now, and I encourage you to do so because it would be amazing. And if you go on there when you register your account, send an email to the administrator, and we'll give you free credit so that you can actually get listed and communicate. And you don't have to worry about paying anything, and you can see for yourself how the process works. But you can go on there right now and say, remove my personal information from the internet.
All right. Well, I may, in fact, do that. I think that's an interesting offer, and I'll end with this question. Given all the skills that are being collected on both ends of the process, meaning within Google, within Facebook, and among the hacker community, what does that say about the future of cybersecurity? And this has nothing to do with Hackers List. This is just what is your thought about the future of cybersecurity? And are we in for an endless series of back and forth with data breaches and countermeasures and so on for the foreseeable future?
The reason the data breaches continue to happen is because the people who are charged with defending our data, with protecting our data, don't think like hackers. They think like, I went and got my CISSP, which I have, so don't yell at me for that one. I went and got my CISSP, and I understand cybersecurity and management theory. That's not enough. The people who are sitting in the position that are charged with this huge responsibility are trying very hard to understand an enemy from a perspective of they are all bad, they are all evil, they are all the ones that are just doing mean and hurtful things, and we need not conversate, interact, or have any type of connection with them whatsoever, and that's why they will continue to lose. Because in order to defend yourself against a malicious hacker, you have to understand why they're doing what they're doing and how they're doing it. And
so, to use a military analogy, they're using traditional warfare techniques against an insurgent opponent.
Oh well, I wouldn't call it an insurgent opponent. They're using static techniques against an ever-evolving, dynamic opponent. There was a big conversation months ago about how antivirus is dead, and antivirus is dead because it's based on static signatures. And I can code something right now that's completely unique to you that your antivirus won't see ever. And that's the problem. You have to be able to evolve with who you're defending against. And until people start thinking that stop thinking that hackers are just naturally the bad guy and start employing the people who design the technology, who work with it on a regular basis, who have an intimate knowledge of it, who sleep and breathe this technology, you're going to continue to lose.
So we're fighting an evolutionary war. All right, we'll leave it there. And Charles Tendell, cybersecurity specialist and brains behind Hackers List, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And we will be right back after this. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero